Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Tim Gordon. The Interstate Bridge is old. The first span opening in 1917, the second span in 1958. Currently, it sees about 140,000 vehicles a day traveling on I-5 across the Columbia River between Oregon and Washington. For more than 20 years, serious efforts to replace the bridge have so far not created a new one. The current Interstate Bridge Replacement Program has it as close as it's ever been, but at an increased cost. And joining us today to talk about it is Vancouver Mayor Anne McEnerny-Ogle. It's so great to have you here, Mayor.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, and we're glad you're here, especially because you're on the IBR Executive Steering Committee.
Right.
So you're in the know here. Let's talk about the big question that's coming up from the new total cost estimate. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It really is. $14.4 billion now for everything. That includes a lot more than just the bridge. Right. Can you kind of break it down for us, what that pays for?
All right. So that is 5 miles of work, and it'll be built in phases. The first phase is the bridge, getting on and off of the bridge, getting light rail to Vancouver, and then removing the old bridge. That's just phase 1. That is that $7.5 billion part of it. And then the rest of it are the on-ramps and off-ramps, those 7 interchanges that are in Oregon and Washington, Slough Bridge and all of that. So you're talking work all the way up to 2045.
Yeah.
So it's a long ways out.
Timeline, yeah, for sure. So where do things stand right now? We know we got Coast Guard approval for a fixed span. That's very important, right?
Yes.
And you're happy about that, I know.
Yes, absolutely. 116 feet, a fixed span, 2 bridges together. But, oh, how exciting that happened.
I know as a commuter from Vancouver to Portland and back, yeah, drawbridge, kind of what we want to get away from, right? So that is good news for those of us who have waited many minutes in line to have a drawbridge up. Yep. Where do things stand right now and what's next?
So this is 2026. Everyone has signed the final supplemental environmental impact statement. It's back at the federal level. They need to review everything, and then they need to publish that final supplemental EIS. As that comes forward, everyone takes a look at all thousands and thousands of comments, and then we move forward to the federal government giving what they call the record of decision, the ROD. I would love to have that May 20th. It might be a little later, first part of June. As that ROD comes forward, that is the permission slip to say, keep going, you got this. Okay. So then they put out the request for the construction, the company that's going to build the bridge. When that happens, that will be in 2027. That company then finishes the engineering for the bridge, because right now it's in the conceptual level.
Sure, we've seen the rendering.
Exactly. That progressive build allows the design to move forward, the permits to start happening with construction in 2028. Yay.
To start,
yes.
Right. Do we know who the contractor is yet, or is going to be? Yeah, I'm sure there are a couple top candidates for a large project like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think many people may look at the costs here and say, wow, you know, it's not the $3.4 billion of 2013, it's not the $6 billion of just 2022.
I know.
Can you briefly tell us how we got here and how today's economy plays right into this?
So this bridge was much cheaper way back in the last century, and then in 2013 when it was moving forward, and then everything stopped. Yep. So inflation and tariffs and just the world has changed since this project stopped in the teens. As we look at this, the new engineers came forward, redesigned what they thought was a simpler opportunity. As they also looked at it, the cost has escalated tremendously. But then they also added in the risk. So you'll see on the IBR's website a chart that shows the basic cost for construction. Mm-hmm. And then $4.2 billion is the risk, and then escalation expectations. So that's how you get to that $14.5 billion.
Describe the risk part, because I think people may not understand what that means.
400 different opportunities for the cost to go up. Not just the cost of materials, not just the cost of labor, but what happens when you miss a window of construction in the Columbia River because we have high water, we have fish, we have environmental concerns, we have storms, we have something. So when the engineers and all of those people who specialize in risk of a project, they know all the different opportunities that things can go to hell in a basket.
Sure.
And they add that in, and that's $4 billion of that.
Yeah, so if they're experts on
Yes.
on figuring risk, then it's
That's
probably a
right.
pretty good chance we will actually burn that money
And
in
there-
those ways.
You're right. And there's never been a project in the United States or Europe, China or Japan that came in at that initial estimate. It's always doubled or multiplied by 3 and 5. Even Eisenhower's interstate project was 5 times higher than he thought it was going to be.
So we shouldn't get our hopes up that that risk isn't going to happen and we're going to save $4 billion by any stretch.
No.
Okay,
no.
well, it's an expensive project.
It is.
It is a huge project.
It is.
You know, despite all the effort to create a design that is the LPA, the locally preferred alternative, you still hear all the different ideas that people have, a tunnel
Right.
under the river, you know, leave the old bridge up and build others next to it. I don't know. What do you say to that at this point? And because that is there's still criticism and people weighing in on what should actually happen.
It's kind of like armchair quarterbacks. Did they understand that we don't have bedrock underneath the Columbia River? It's gravel. They understand how seismically fragile this area is? I don't want to be under the Columbia River in a tunnel when the earthquake happens.
Yeah.
So as we looked at that, as the IBR looked at, as both states and everyone looked at that, they knew that we needed to move forward above the water, keep going.
Yep. How do you like the design?
I love the fixed bridge. Wide, pedestrian, all of the bike and everything else, because you know now when you're on that sidewalk, it makes you nervous
It's a little-
because the bridge bounces. So is the design perfect? Not yet, but that's why we have a progressive build. We'll have the engineers in, take a look at it, especially the light rail, getting it into Vancouver. Where will it go? Where will it terminate?
Yep. You know, this timeline, so we get a contractor and they start on the
Right.
bridge, but 2045 is the completion date for everything. That just feels so far out.
It is.
Yeah. How long will it take to do the bridge, just the bridge? And will that, you know, I don't know how that will work with the other pieces not in place.
If they start in 2028 and the river is safe to build in and construct in, they think that they can get done with that by 2035. So getting that bridge piece done and the on and off ramps, that will be a 6 to 7 year completion time.
Yep.
You know, in Vancouver, it's a very tight space to work around. On the Portland side, we have larger areas to work with. But I have the confidence that once they get started, things will go quickly. We could probably get that done in 6 years.
Okay. Tolling is part of the equation.
It is.
Before the new bridge is even up, tolling is expected to start for commuters on the old bridge.
Yeah.
How soon do you expect that to start? And what are you hearing from Vancouver
During
Roads about
construction.
that? During construction.
During
Once
construction.
construction starts.
So when the construction starts in 2028, the tolling will start because we're paying for this project.
Yeah.
There isn't a single project in the United States that doesn't have tolling as part of the construction of a mega project of this size.
Right. And I know there's a chart that kind of shows what it
Yes.
probably could be, roughly a bit more at peak times and so forth.
Right. If you're at 1 o'clock in the morning and you're headed somewhere, you probably won't have any toll at all. If you wanted to go at 8 o'clock in the morning during the peak time, you're going to be paying a higher price.
Yeah.
So we may not want to go to Jansen Beach to buy shampoo. We may want to stay in Vancouver to do that.
But if you got to get to work on time, you
That's
have to
right.
go at 8 o'clock
You
and
have
you
to
will
figure,
pay a price.
Yes, and you'll have to figure that out.
Yep. You know, talk about light rail just a little bit. I don't have it in my sheet here, but I want to bring it up. How are you feeling about that? How do you think the public is feeling about that? It was such a difficult issue that kind of killed the CRC, the Columbia River Crossing Project, before when Washington didn't come up with the money. Where does that stand?
And that, Tim, that is why 8.5 years ago, the Vancouver City Council said, we want to replace the bridge with a high-capacity transit in a dedicated guideway, boom, boom, boom. And it was decided 8.5 years ago that we would bring light rail in and stop it in downtown Vancouver. That was a contract between the two states. We wanted something to happen on the I-5 bridge, so did Portland. And that was an agreement between the two states that that would happen. Now, we want it to come to Library Square at the Evergreen Boulevard right now. So we're in agreement with all of the partners to bring that all the way over and drop it right there at Evergreen. And so we're looking at all the costs and benefits of engineering that and getting that in there, because we know that we're building for the future, not just for 20 years out.
Right. For those who aren't familiar with Vancouver, that's pretty near Clark College, which is there on the...
No.
Oh, no.
No. You're right. That's the old project.
Oh, my goodness.
The old CRC took it up. This drops it closer to City Hall, to our library on Evergreen.
Oh, at Evergreen. Oh,
That's right.
my
Where
mistake. Okay.
No, where
That's
Evergreen
changed.
goes over.
Yeah.
That new library right there. The Academy is across the street, that whole downtown area. So it would come down off of the bridge and stop right there.
Why is that a good spot?
It is the hub of where all of our bus rapid transits and our local buses transition. And that's the opportunity for all of those BRTs and walkers and bikers and everyone else to come in. It's right there. We own the property. We could have parking underneath, transit-oriented development, affordable housing up above it. And it's right next to I-5. It's across from the national park. It's a perfect spot for us.
Perfect. Well, I've known you for quite a while now, and I know you're a big proponent of an interstate bridge replacement. In a minute or so, give us your best pitch. Why is this so important to happen?
Well, seismically, it is not a strong bridge. And as you had in your video, it is Douglas fir trees sunk in mud.
Right.
That doesn't give us the confidence. And if you've ever walked on it or stopped when the bridge goes up, you're bouncing. So we need a seismically safe bridge. But $132 million of commodities go across that bridge every day. We need this regional economy to keep going. A fixed bridge allows that. Getting rid of the lift means that we continue moving forward with all of the commuters, the freight, and we don't have a stop sign between Canada and Mexico.
That's right. Yeah, it was a major stoppage spot
is.
on I-5. And the financing is more than $5 million. We should be good to get started, right?
We'll figure it out. There hasn't been a project of this magnitude that doesn't get finished and the funding is found.
All right. Well, Mayor Anne McEnerny-Ogle, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tim.
We appreciate it.
You bet.